Hello, everyone, and welcome to Body Bags. I'll be your reviewer for today. I'm Lonnie from Terra and Tats, and here it is, October 2nd, baby, my favorite month of the year. And I'm definitely looking forward to this month. Oh, man, my favorite time. Anyway, let's go ahead and get to our review. This week, we're doing a theme week. I'm sure you already know, those who've been watching the videos on the channel. The theme this week is we need to pick, a movie starting with the where the first letter is the same as the first letter of our channel, and mine is T, so I needed a movie that begins with the letter T. So I decided to go for a 1971 horror film called The Touch of Satan. And funny enough, when I first started looking this up, I really did. I thought this was a made-for-TV movie because if you watch the movie, it very much has the look and feel of a 1970s made-for-TV movie. It's not particularly gory or anything like that. It just has that kind of it really does. It just has that 1970s made-for-TV movie feel. Anyway, so, oh boy, this movie, let me tell you. The first time that I actually discovered this movie, I think is how a lot of people discovered it. I saw it as an episode on Mystery Science Theater 3000, and, the thing about this movie is it's not good, okay? But it is kind of oddly entertaining, and I'll get to that. But anyway, the story concerns a young man named Jody. He's driving around, he's driving around in a car. He gives a little bit of backstory that, his dad was a lawyer, wants him to be a lawyer. I guess he's just out of school or something like that. He wants him to be a lawyer, but he's not sure, so he kind of wants to kind of go out and kind of travel around a little bit, maybe sow his wild oats, I guess, and see if this is, being a lawyer is really what he wants to do with his life. And so he's driving along, decides, comes into this small little weird town where, he finds out that, some murders have been going on. A farmer got murdered with a pitchfork and stuff, and so Jody's just kind of okay, he's okay, a little shaken up by it but not too put off. And so he's driving around, he sees kind of like a back road, and of course, like in any horror movie, it's always a good idea to be out driving around. You start taking back roads, you don't know where they go to. So he takes this back road, and he comes up on a pond, and he'd gotten a sandwich at a diner and stuff, so he decides he's gonna sit down and have a little picnic by the pond and stuff, just for fun. Then he meets our female lead, Melissa, and they start having this conversation and everything else, and he's immediately smitten with her. He's immediately taken by how pretty she is, and they get to talking, and she invites him to her family's farm, and it turns out that it's like a walnut ranch, which is kind of weird, but anyway, so he goes to the ranch, and he figures like he's just going there to visit, then he'll leave, but then she invites him to stay for dinner, so he stays for dinner. He meets Melissa's mother and father. We'll get to that in a minute too. So they have dinner together, have a nice conversation. So he figures, okay, it's time for me to get going. So then Melissa tells him, she wants him to stay the night. You could clearly see that the parents are kind of put off by this whole thing. And Jody, reluctantly, he, decides, okay, I'll go ahead and do it. Then, they're out having a moonlight walk and everything. And then, now Melissa wants him to stay for a few days and everything. And Jody's kind of finding it weird, like she wants him to stick around so much. And then, of course, we come to find out that actually this family is kind of the one that's responsible for these murders that are going on, particularly Lucinda, who is this kind of, very, very old. She's very burned up and everything else. This, point of fact too, this movie was the first, I believe it's the first movie that Joe Belasco did makeup effects for. This is before he would go on to do, effects for Cronenberg movies like Shivers and Rabbit and things like this. But I believe this was his first movie. So, and she's like old and all burned up and stuff like that. And she's like, anybody who's not her fantasy, it's in this house, it's Melissa and her quote unquote father, Luther, and then her quote unquote mother, Molly. And anybody who else comes around that's not these three, Lucinda immediately murders. And so so it's kind of like you come to find out that actually that Lucinda, she's a sneaky little rat. She's always like sneaking out of the house and everything, and she's like going off to kill people and stuff. And then she comes back, and she's always like whimpering and crying and all this other kind of stuff. And Melinda or Melissa or whatever. And so, and then Jody eventually he starts to figure out what's going on. And what it comes out to find out is that actually Melissa is a 127-year-old witch, okay? And, it comes in this flashback, and, oh boy, this movie's kind of hard to explain. It comes in this flashback to him that she uses her witchcraft powers to show him in a dream that way back when, that Lucinda was, a woman who was practicing witchcraft and stuff, and then the angry townspeople came out and they decided that she was a witch. They're going to burn her at the stake. So they try to, and then Melissa ends up making a pact with the devil to save Lucinda's life. And so basically Melissa sells her soul to the devil. And now the whole thing is like she's tired of it. This has been going on for so long. She wants the whole thing to stop. And, they kind of keep hinting around to where, Jody is kind of like a chosen one of sense, that he can save her from, he could save her from this pact with the devil, and he can, they can stop Lucinda, stop her from killing and things like this. And then it kind of just all goes on from there. This movie is a mess, folks. I mean, it's not hard to see why Mystery Science Theater did it. Now, that being said, if you ever want to watch, I would personally prefer, like, if you were going to watch this movie, I would definitely recommend it would be much better if you just watched the Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode, because the jokes are hilarious. They get so much mileage out of it. As a matter of fact, I would recommend, if you ever wanted to play a good drinking game, put on the Mystery Science Theater episode of Touch of Satan. And every time Mike or the bots make a 1970s joke or a 1970s reference, take a shot. I would recommend that, but here's the problem. You'd all die from alcohol poisoning, so yeah, probably not a very good idea. But like I said, this movie is such a mess. There are so many plot holes in this movie. There's so much underdeveloped characters. Like, seriously, you think J.J. Abrams directed this thing. It's so messed up. It's like, for one thing, it's like the whole thing about Molly and Luther being Melissa's parents. Here's the thing, like what I mentioned earlier, that she sent Jody kind of like some exposition in a dream, and that he was having, and where Melissa sells her soul to Satan because they were going to kill Lucinda, and you see her mother and father. Her mother and father are not Luther and Molly. They are two completely different people. Okay. As a matter of fact, the father, her real father's name is David Strickland, And so you're sitting there like, well, who the hell are Molly and Luther? Who are they? How they're not her real parents. It would make sense if, like, you saw, like, in the flashback, that if you had, like, the same actors but maybe kind of look a little bit different, but you could tell it's not them. It's two completely different actors, And so you're sitting there, so that raises a question, like, who really are Molly and Luther? Are they people who just happen to be in the same boat as Melissa? Or are they just two people who, are they two people who they sold their soul to Satan for whatever reason, and then they just decided to team up with Melissa and Lucinda and just kind of make this kind of family environment or whatever? Like, who are they? What are they? What really is the connection to these characters? It's never explained. And, as a matter of fact, I did watch the movie by itself. I would say if you want to watch the movie just by itself, no Mystery Science Theater or any of that stuff, The easiest way to do it, it's uploaded on YouTube. You can watch the movie pretty much for free, but the whole movie's on there. And so I decided to watch the entire movie because, like when you watch a movie on Mystery Science Theater, they will edit out, kind of scale it down for, time. And, of course, if there's like, really graphic material, they'll cut that out too. This movie here, hardly any graphic material, but, and I thought maybe if I watched the movie, unspoofed and everything, it might answer some of these questions. It doesn't. It doesn't answer any of the questions. It's still weird, but it's never really explained, like Molly and Luther and their connection to, Lucinda and Melissa. It's never explained. This whole thing about Jody being like this chosen one who can save Melissa from the devil's clutches and everything, it makes no sense whatsoever. I mean, the whole thing basically is just like the way that he can save her from the devil is he has to believe that the devil exists. And that's basically about it. It's like, he says like, how can I help you? And, she's like, just believing what I'm telling you and stuff like that. It's like, and, you're sitting there like, okay, like it would make total sense if, she said like, okay, here's the thing. I'm in the clutches of the devil. All right. First of all, I need you to believe in the devil, but say like, we need to perform like, a ritual, some kind of a practice or something, some kind of a ritual that we could perform that would, free me from the devil and stuff like this. No, nothing like that at all. It's just, the whole thing is just, he just has to believe that the devil exists, and that's supposed to end the whole thing and everything. It's like, it makes no sense. Really, it doesn't. Yeah, just this movie is like, oh man. And then, one thing I will give, I give a couple of props to this movie for, a couple of things. Number one, atmosphere. Okay. This movie, like I say, even though it does look like a 1970s made-for-TV movie, it really does have a good atmosphere to it. It has kind of an unsettling ambiance to it. There are moments in the movie you kind of feel a little bit uncomfortable watching it, and it definitely has, there is some suspense in the movie. Like, for instance, there's a scene where a deputy comes out to the farm, and he's talking to Molly and Luther, and he's like, can I just look around? And can I just look around, see if I can find anything? And Molly and Luther, yeah, sure, go ahead, just be careful. And so he's out looking around, he's like checking the fields, all this other kind of stuff. And it's suspenseful because he's doing this. And meanwhile, you can see kind of like lurking in the background, you can see that Lucinda has escaped and she's stalking the sheriff. And, so it's kind of building some tension there. So it's like, that's pretty good. And just, kind of like the overall feeling of the movie and everything else, basically the movie is kind of like, the best way I could describe it is kind of like a satanic witchcraft movie meshed with, like a kind of backwoods, killer inbred family, farm movie, kind of like, I guess kind of like maybe if you were maybe if you like took like Rob Zombie's Lords of Salem and Rob Zombie's kind of House of a Thousand Corpses and maybe try like mesh it into one movie, something like that, kind of that kind of vibe to it. But and another thing I do give give credit to this movie for, the acting. Now, the script is a total mess. You could tell, like this script really could have used some rewrite work. But the acting really is not bad. You could tell the actors are really trying to give a good performance, but I think that kind of just ends up adding to the cheese factor of this movie. It's like the actors are really trying to give a good performance. They're not phoning it in. They're really trying to, they're trying to do something. They're trying to accomplish something here, but it's just the subject matter is insane. The dialogue is outright ridiculous in some areas. Like, okay, I told you about the part where Jody and Melissa are taking a little moonlight stroll, but when you watch the movie, you can clearly tell it's pretty much day for night. And they're walking along the pond, and at one point Melissa just stops and looks at the pond, and she says, this is where the fish lives. And you're like, where did that come from? It's like there are so many times you're watching this movie, you're scratching your head. Like, where the hell did these things come from? But yeah, and then just some of the most ridiculous dialogue you've ever heard. But it's almost done in kind of like a David Zucker kind of Naked Gun kind of way. What you got is you got actors giving a genuinely serious performance, but they're saying some of the most silliest lines you've ever heard in a movie. So it is perfect fodder for Mystery Science Theater. You can see why they went after this one. But even after all I've said, this movie has a lot of problems with it. It has a lot of plot holes, things like that. But still, the movie is actually interesting. It is kind of entertaining to watch. It's almost like, kind of good in a bad way or bad in a good way or something like that. But I would actually kind of recommend, give it a check. Especially if you like those 1970s, kind of occult movies, and stuff. If you were into like the 70s, like The Omen, Race with the Devil, Wicker Man, things like that. If you're into those kind of movies, you might be into this. But just like I said, just don't expect a particularly serious movie. And but it is kind of fun. And I would say, if you like Mystery Science Theater, definitely watch the Mystery Science Theater episode. You will laugh. You will laugh like hell. No pun intended. But anyway, I think that's pretty much about all I can say about this movie. It's so weird. It's so all over the place. And like I said, just so many plot holes. It doesn't make much sense. But it is entertaining at the end of the day. It is entertaining. And even without the Mystery Science Theater, it is still kind of entertaining to watch. But anyway, I think I've rambled on long enough. So if anybody took the time to watch this, I thank you for doing it. I appreciate you for doing it. I honestly hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave it a like. If you haven't already, go and subscribe to the channel. We have a different guy every day of the week. I'm the Saturday reviewer. Everybody's doing great stuff, good times. And, we got more theme weeks and everything else coming up. So that's it. Everybody take care. Have a good day. And I'll catch you all next time.